He's like, we're selling the house. His name was the only one on title. I get a scathing phone call from his wife, who's soon to be his ex-wife, who wants to know why I'm selling their house.
No way.
Yeah, she had no idea, and she was not happy with me at all. I wouldn't have been happy with me either.
I think I like it.
Well, welcome back, Jenny.
Hello.
Yes. So today's topic, we're going to talk about something extremely exciting and fun that everybody's going to want to listen to, which is the 3 Ds of real estate.
Oh, yeah, they're super fun. Why don't you just
there's
tell
actually
us
more
what
than
they are?
3.
Yeah.
But the ones we're going to talk about today are debt, death, and divorce.
Debt, death, and divorce. I mean,
not necessarily in that order, but yes, death, debt, and divorce.
Nothing more exciting.
Nothing more exciting than that. Did we just lose all of our listeners?
Probably. They're like, I was already having a good day. I don't want to keep going with this.
Yeah.
But I think they're important topics, and that's the reason that we're bringing them up. And one of the things is with debt, divorce, and death is that they kind of sometimes force you into a real estate transaction that you didn't otherwise want to be in.
Right.
And they bring with them their own emotional baggage, but then their own legal baggage. And you really need an experienced agent to help bring you through the process. So let's start with number 1. Where do you want to start in this trilogy of happiness?
Well, why don't we go ahead and knock out death?
Oh, yes.
Since that's sure for all of us.
Right. Everyone will be facing this at some point.
But for me, when I think about death and the emotions that run high and the clients that we've worked with, it's because obviously you come into a situation where they're already grieving. They've lost their mom, their dad, and now they have a house that they need to sell.
This would be like an estate sale situation. Right. So not necessarily that someone's died and has, just because you die doesn't mean you have to sell your house. But in an estate sale, it's a very particular real estate transaction, right? So we would put it in the same category as almost a distressed sale. So like a foreclosure or a short sale. So an estate sale comes with its own guidelines within real estate. And it is the result of the person owning the home, the only person on title, the only person left, passing away. And there are steps that actually get that property into the hands of the heir or heirs of the property.
Yeah. So we then have to come in and find out who is running the estate. So who's the executor of the estate? And oftentimes it's more than just one person, it's siblings. And you've got siblings that are grieving, they're upset, they can't agree, they don't agree on pricing, they don't agree on what to do with the personal property. And so we have to then come in and navigate not only what we're trying to do, which is sell the house, but now how do we get rid of all the stuff in the house? And how long is this going to take? And what is the process?
Yeah, it's a very emotional process often, and it does stir up a lot of emotions. Sometimes this is the home that these kids have grown up in.
Yeah, oftentimes.
And it really is tied to their memories or their parents or their relative in some way. And there is a process called probate that, depending on how you have your estate set up, most homes have to go through that process. So it's not as simple as so-and-so dies and then you can just put their house on the market and sell it and get the proceeds. In fact, it's a pretty complicated process of putting the property through probate, finding the proper executor who's going to make the decisions about the property. And then even as detailed as where the proceeds get sent at the closing. You have to have a special account. They just can't go into an account that's already open.
Yes, they just can't go to one of the siblings.
Right. It's a very layered process. And I think it's really important to have an agent who understands the process and who's been there and who has helped people through estate sales, because if you treat this like a regular real estate transaction, it's going to go sideways on all sorts of fronts.
Yeah, we've seen that happen. So I agree. So we come in and we work with the executor, we work with the family. And one of the first steps that we do is we try to get rid of all the stuff.
Yeah. If they haven't already, then we have resources to help them with an estate sale or clearing out the house, because it is usually best to sell it vacant.
Yeah, it is. So what else on death do you want to talk about?
Yeah. So I just think it's important to remember that it is a legal process and a business process as much as it is an emotional process. And when you can have agents to help you step out of the emotion of selling the property and bring the equity of the home that is going to go to the heirs and therefore be able to help them in the future. To just understand it has to become a business deal.
Yeah.
And I think having an agent to help guide you through that really helps you step back and see it as such.
Yeah. So that's death. Let's talk about debt. When I got into real estate in 2007, things were great. The market was amazing. And then it just crashed in 2008.
Right.
And we started to see more homes being foreclosed on, and short sales started to pop up. And what a short sale was people saying, they were raising their hand saying, hey, I'm headed towards a foreclosure and I need help selling my home so that it doesn't go to foreclosure and we can short the amount that's owed to the bank.
Right.
And what I found was the number one piece, most people were afraid to even talk about the fact that they had debt, that they were in debt, whether it was consumer debt, whether it was they lost their job, they couldn't make their payment. And fortunately, we haven't been in that environment lately, but we may potentially be heading back to some of those things. So how do we deal with people and how do we deal with debt on the sale of a house?
Certainly for a short sale or a foreclosure, you really require an expert for that. That is its own topic and its own thing.
Yes,
and
it is.
It is completely different. I think what we're seeing now in the market is people, they have a ton of equity in their property.
Most people don't have debt on their house. They have a mortgage,
right?
But they have a lot of equity in their home.
That's right. And they're actually leveraging that equity to help pay off consumer debt or some other debt that they have, medical debt, or just whatever has happened in the situation. If you're going to leverage that equity, understand that the market and buyers and everyone else doesn't care how much you owe. Your property is still worth what your property's worth.
Yeah.
And acting quickly is going to be your best bet. So pulling out your equity now, because we don't know what the market's going to look like 3 months, 6 months, or a year from now. If that's something that's important to you, have a plan around it.
Right.
And go ahead and pull out that equity now, but understand that just because you need a certain amount doesn't mean the market's going to give you a certain amount. So again, be honest with your agent about your goals, because we have all been there, right? And we're able to help guide them, connect them with the right lenders, connect them with the right people in order to get out of whatever financial situation they may be in and set them up for the future. So they're not facing foreclosure, they're not facing bankruptcy, and that would affect their ability to buy in the future.
Yeah, I think you said it, but I think that most people, they kind of hold their cards close to their chest.
Right.
They don't want to share with us their debt. They don't want to share with us the issues that they may be having, but it is very important that we know what's going on so that we can best advise them.
That's right. Yeah. Because it could be that you need to hang on to your house and use an equity line or something like that. But if we understand the process, then we can guide them better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So that is debt. And then let's talk about one near and dear to both of our hearts, which is divorce.
Oh, yes.
We've both been there.
We have both been there.
And we've dealt with it. And we worked with a lot of clients who have gone through divorce, and we've helped navigate how do we sell the home. So what emotions do you see when people are getting divorced?
Well, divorce is a very interesting one because you have two people who obviously aren't getting along anymore,
right,
to the point where they're willing to separate from their marriage. And now you need them to come together to sell a house.
Right, which they can't agree on life. How are they going to agree on selling a house and a price?
Yeah. And so, not to mention there's usually someone who maybe wants to stay in the house and someone who wants to sell the house. And again, this goes back to being very careful that you're not using your spite in order to, mess up your chances of getting the most for the house. I mean, I had a situation once where I went on a listing appointment and spoke to a gentleman, and he's like, we're selling the house. His name was the only one on title. I was newer to the business, so I probably should have asked more questions. But a week later, we get the house ready for the market. We throw a sign in the yard, and then I get a scathing phone call from his wife, who's soon to be his ex-wife, who wants to know why I'm selling their house.
No way.
Yeah, she had no idea and had taken the kids and left.
This must have been early on in your career,
It
because
was.
this is not something that we've ever done.
No. And and he was listing the house and trying to sell it before the divorce was actually filed. And she was not happy with me at all. I wouldn't have been happy with me either. So we obviously immediately pulled the house off the market. But here's the thing. If we had gotten a buyer, that wouldn't have gone through. So I think another thing people have to understand, and that we understand about the divorce process, is either both parties have to come together and agree to sell the property while they're still married.
Yep, which happens quite often, or they have to have the divorce decree.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it has to be ready to go and signed. And then it's specified in there where proceeds go. But the biggest thing is, regardless, they still usually have to work together in some capacity to get the home sold.
Yeah, and we can act, and we do act as that kind of mediator between the two. If they don't get along, if there's a lot of conflict, we can communicate between both parties, and we'll handle all of those, interpersonal issues that go on between a divorcing couple. But yes, I think it's important to know that we're there to help them get the home sold and move on. And then in all three of these cases, they are really more business transactions, and they have to be looked at more with the emotion removed.
Right. And that's how you have to see them. And that's why I think having the good agent is so important, because they're going to offer a neutral perspective. They're going to just give you the data, and they're going to help you really just get through the transaction, because at that point, that's the goal.
Yeah, that is the goal. Well, those are the 3Ds today that we're going to talk about real estate. So
yeah, well, exciting stuff.
That's exciting stuff. I hope it wasn't too...
Yeah. Hopefully no one's facing this anytime soon. But if they are, you know who to call.
That's right.
All right.